Hi, it's Dr. Tiffany. I hope you're doing well. So today's topic is going to be on deep breathing. Yay! I know everybody's so excited about deep breathing. Most of my patients get really annoyed with me because they're like, duh, Dr. TW, deep breathing is just so obvious. We need to breathe for oxygen, right? But there's so much more to that, and today I'm hoping to answer that question for you. So let's go all the way back in time. Imagine there's a saber-toothed tiger in front of us. Oh my goodness, we need to get into the fight or flight reaction. In fact, we don't even think about it, it just happens for us. During this time, all the blood in our heart and in our stomach rushes out to our outer extremities, our arms and our legs, so that we can either fight the situation, flee it, or in some circumstances, we've also been known to freeze. And that freezing circumstance can be protective in many factors as well. But during that time, we're feeling very overwhelmed. And nowadays, there's no saber-toothed tiger that we need to be running from. Most of the situations that we have are anxiety provoking events, right? When we're feeling stressed out, it could be because we feel triggered by something that happened and it reminded us of something negative in our past. It could be because we're anxious because we're going to do a performance, whether we're acting or dancing or we're doing a public speaking event. We can feel those nerves, right? So, in order for us to calm down, we need to focus and ground ourselves on our deep breathing. Deep breathing is the absolute opposite reaction of the fight or flight reaction. In fact, when we think of deep breathing, it's called rest or digest because when we're deep breathing, we're chill. We're just hanging out, right? Our heart is just resting and our body's able to digest and process food because we're not under a lot of stress. And when we're resting and digesting, we're just breathing normally in deep breaths usually. So the idea is to calm ourselves down. We need to trick our body into deep breathing. So essentially the behavior is changing the thought process. Oftentimes we work with how our thoughts change our behaviors. This way it's the opposite direction. When we change our behaviors, we're changing our thinking. We feel less stressed essentially. When we're breathing very quickly and we're feeling stressed out and we're feeling anxious, whether it's an anxiety related to anger, an anxiety related to an event, our frontal lobes don't work as well. In fact, they start to shut down and all the blood and adrenaline starts pumping in the midbrain, which is the primitive brain. So for example, if I wanted to do a public speaking event, I don't want to be operating on my midbrain because I'm so anxious. I need my frontal lobes to come into play so I can sound somewhat intelligent. So it's important to ground ourselves in deep breathing. I say this for my couples too. Whenever you're in an argument and that heart rate has increased, too many beats per minute results in your frontal lobe kind of shutting down and us going back to that midbrain. We don't problem solve effectively when that is the circumstance. So I like to use this technique on a lot of my service members. I've used it for a long period of time. I don't call it deep breathing just because it's so uncool, especially for our soldiers. We like to use the term combat breathing. So I tell them when they get themselves on deployment and they may be in a tick in a certain situation where there's a lot of firing going on, whether there's an explosion, you name it, we want to be able to ground ourselves and to deep breathe. Because when we're deep breathing, we're able to focus, we're gathering our situational awareness, and we're able to problem solve more rapidly. But sometimes worst case scenario happens, and under those circumstances, we could get shot. I tell my patients during that time, if somebody were to get shot, can you imagine the benefit if they could deep breathe and not hyperventilate? You slow the heart rate down. You don't bleed out as quickly. I have known that from my past experiences that it has saved lives being able to focus on our deep breathing. It's critical. All right, let me check my notes here. I think I discussed most of it, so I might as well make myself look like somewhat a goofball, which I always am, and show you what deep breathing looks like. Okay, this is how I teach my patients. We're going to do 3 beats in, inhale and hold and release. So I'm going to count it for you so you can see, and then I will demonstrate it. Hold. I'll count it now. 1, 2, 3. Hold, release. 2, 3. So now I'll do it in silence. You don't have to look super goofy doing this. In fact, you can ground yourself in your breathing in public anytime or any place, okay? So the trick to making deep breathing so successful is that you're practicing it on a regular basis. Don't expect that you know that deep breathing is a great trick, right? To be able to implement it in the heat of the moment. It just doesn't work that way. Our body does everything through muscle memory. It is so important for us to focus on our breathing. All right? So keep breathing. God willing, we'll keep breathing. And in the meantime, push the love forward. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe and to leave comments at the bottom.